Hello, my beautiful co-creators. Lilou here on the Juicy Living Tour Europe. Today I'm in Windsor in England. It's still part of this beautiful group. I cannot get enough. All those wonderful people that are here this weekend, and you're one of them. And it's another delicious story. I feel it's important to share with people because you had a very successful life, and I would actually like to hear from you before we get into the details, but how do you see success? Because I think it's quite important to define it right now at the beginning of this interview.
For me, success, thank you very much. Firstly, I'm very humbled to be a part of this interview with yourself, Lilou, with a great following and such great people listening. Success to me is a kind of a combination, to be honest with yourself. It has to, I think, originally reside with the family. And for myself, success breeds in the house, in the home, having a successful surroundings, nurturing around yourself. And then obviously fiscal success does come hand in hand with that, because it gives you peace of mind, above all.
Yeah, you were handed a business at a very early age, and then became a millionaire very young too. And you were born in this kind of business atmosphere. But what makes it so that you could handle that at that time? I mean, how were you able to handle the business at such a young age and successfully move forward?
I'm going to suggest I probably answer that question with a very humble answer. My parents, without a doubt, the upbringing that I had from a very young age was very tenderly nurtured. I was surrounded at the time by business people, entrepreneurs, my father, my grandfather, etc., and my mother as well. So I suppose it was a natural move for me to be in that environment and take step up into control.
Were they already, since you were little, sharing with you? Were they sharing with you what they were going through, and it was all very open and transparent already in the family?
Lilou, I think yes. To be honest with yourself, I'm very blessed. I had a situation where I didn't really know anything else besides business. As far as I was concerned, it seemed to be natural, as though everybody should be able to run businesses and entrepreneurial organizations. So I don't think I've ever been in that situation of actually thinking anything but whether I was going through academics or whether I was going to be a simple trader. Yeah. To me, it was all one. And yes, I was nurtured in a very, I suppose the nuggets were handed down to us in gift format from my parents, both of them, both very differently and dynamically different. My father being a very strong, ambitious character, not necessarily for the detail. But my mother on the other side was also ambitious, but much more into the detail. So I've kind of been blessed with a nurturing on both sides of the coin.
But you have this really this gentleness, loving presence about you. Is that how you are in business too, and you handle things, or do you think we need to be tough and controlling when we're a big boss?
Now that's a great question. I think that comes with maturity. To be specific, when you first start off in business, without a doubt, individuals, I would suggest, would become, initially will become quite insecure within themselves, because business is such a paradigm that it's not predictable. So I suppose with learning, with experience, as you take step-by-step actions to ensure that that successes themselves are noted and correctly learnt from, it allows an individual to be much more balanced. And only then, I believe a mixture of both. The question that you asked me was, do I have to be stern or do I have to be soft and humble? And I think it's a mixture of both, because to be honest with yourself, being playful and being focused and communicative is, I think, key to success. But never forgetting the actual detail. Never keeping taking your eye off the actual details. So yes, when it comes to financials, you should be very accurate and very controlled.
There's a lot of people that are in this fear, financial fear. There's some business that don't have enough of the cash flow, or there's people that might not too. What is your recommendation with that, with this kind of phobia around the finances?
Finances and phobia do kind of come hand in hand. Where there's fiscal success, there'll always be an element of phobia, I believe, my personal opinion, attached to that. whether you are earning £100 or billions. But there's a key question that I speak to a lot of my personal one-on-one clients with, my mentees. And immediately the first thing that a person should look at in times of financial hardship and economic sort of tightness, the first thing I would suggest they do is to look back, take a deep breath, come out of their business and have a look freshly from outside as though they were a fresh pair of eyes. If possible, employ somebody, get somebody in to go and have a look with them as well. But most importantly, look at the assets they have right now to sell. And it's one of the key things that I'd like to put forward to virtually everybody I work with. Don't try to sell things that you haven't got. Look at what you physically got in your stock room, in your business, in your asset value, and start redeeming that as quick as you possibly can, because you'll find a lot of your cash injection, whether there's financial hardship or not, if the price is right, you can pretty much sell anything. Mm-hmm. So if it's about cash, don't necessarily hold on to a stockpile of stock. So just get rid of that stock quickly, turn it into liquid capital, and then reinvest it correctly, and it should resolve cash flow quite quickly.
Mm. Is there, do you have recommendation for people that want to start, that are kind of tired of working for somebody and are stressed and they want to become entrepreneurs themselves? Do you have recommendation for them?
What a lovely question. Quite a deep question, I think. The question the way the question's got to be answered, it has to be, is it a personal journey? Are they actually aligned with wanting to work for themselves? Is it just a bad boss that they're just currently facing? Is the job location, the environment the wrong place? Or is it actually them wanting to work for themselves? Mm-hmm. And is that part of the ambition? So some of the tips would be is sit down with yourself, with a group of friends, preferably your loved ones, and actually decide whether it's actually the boss, the environment, the work colleagues, or the actual industry that you're working within. Are they the key problems? And if so, you should seek employment in another place. Follow your heart a little bit. Mm-hmm. And if not, if all of those things are absolutely no, this is just not what I want to do, I suggest seek professional help and take that step. That step's the hardest part in life, in my opinion. My father, when he took his first step from being a electrical engineer to running his own business, I was talking to him about this specifically, and he said it was the hardest thing he ever did, but once committed, don't go back.
Mm. Was he speaking also about intuition, or do you follow your intuition? Do you feel it's a big part of business?
Yes, intuition is a very big part of business. Once you start realizing how important intuition really is, when you start identifying it correctly and not seeing it as a challenge, but more of a synchronicity, sort of the humble side of yourself. Actually, I found to answer that question better, I found whenever my first gut instincts were, that's where I actually was usually right. Mm. The unconscious brain, being our friend, tends to bubble up those beautiful answers straight away, and then we tend to muddy it afterwards with thinking about all the classic, statistical evidence thereafter, maybe analysis by paralysis, or paralysis, by analysis. But I think I've always found that when I've gone back to my first original hunch, to say at least, it's usually the right one. Mm. So yes, intuition plays a big part.
Yeah. And your background and how you were raised and who you are in the English society, the British society, has never stopped you, or were you look different? Did you fear some things? Was it okay to move forward for you? You never had this second thought?
That's another very good question. I think this could help a lot of people who are different, I suppose. I never actually had
I suppose it's all of us.
Yes, absolutely. But I'm talking more of physical, like, for example, I'm a Sikh, so I'm usually in some kind of a headgear, so whether it's a turban or whether it's a bandana of some kind. I think the question has to be answered in a different way, slightly from what I was going to a minute ago. We're never the same as anybody anyway. On my personal journey, I could say to yourself that I actually never saw myself as different. So I wasn't actually aware of it, and I wasn't receiving or responding. The old scenario where what you see is what you get in life. Maybe behind my back I was different, but to my face I wasn't different. My eyes never saw myself as different. I just saw myself fitting in with everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's very key, because if we want to integrate in every way, I'm a born British Sikh. My parents have come from India. My father and my mother have been very, very profound in saying that we should integrate with society and be a functional part of society to assist the better of society. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense? So in business, I never really saw myself as being different. Adversely, on the other side of it, I think maybe being different was a bit of a USP and kind of easy to remember maybe. Mm-hmm. So if I was in a business meeting or a networking meeting of some kind, I'm quite certain I would probably be noticed kind of a bit earlier. So then it was up to me to add the value to my first impressions. So I thought it was a bit of an asset to me, personally. Yeah. I never found any aberration or any kind of race-related restrictions.
Mm-hmm. It's fantastic when we own it, when we own who we are and we accept ourselves as we are. Then we don't bother with we don't even hear it, or it's not even present there. If we don't feel awkward ourselves, other people are not going to feel awkward. It's just not there.
Yeah, you are so right. Perception is projection. Yeah. What we percept within ourselves is what we project outside of ourselves. So if there isn't any challenge inside here, the person standing opposite doesn't see any challenge either. Mm-hmm. If we are challenged internally and we find ourselves slightly shy in the way we're interacting with other people or restricting our own actions, then that'll pass through to the other person as well. Mm-hmm. So the best state to be in is natural state. So for me, I like to put a lot of effort into just being me. Mm-hmm. I do have to, with all my heart, I have to relay that to my parents again, because we've never seen ourselves different. We've never had, no, you can't do that. And we've always been nurtured to say, okay, so how do we do that? Mm-hmm. So I've never really been stopping myself in any way.
Yeah. You seem to have an open heart. I could feel your presence and your open-heartedness. How does this heart still stays open even in business situation, in negotiations, and in challenges? Is that something important, and that you also work with aligning with your mind and your heart, or how does this work for you?
Is it okay to make a bit of a Sikh reference?
Yeah. Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
There's no limitations here.
Good, because it's an integral part of my life. There was a saint who went to go and seek higher knowledge, and he heard that there was another senior saint in India, I'm talking about. Basically, it was Baba Namdev Ji. And Sri Chandji, which was our founder, Guru Nanak's son, actually went to seek higher order, higher understanding, and he ended up with meeting Baba Namdev Ji, who was actually spinning cotton, from what I can understand. So my apologies if there's slight errors in interpretation. Was spinning cotton and creating material. And as he was creating the material, his focus was what was deemed to be 100% on creating, I suppose you could say, a livelihood, an income. And Sri Chand, which was the gentleman who came to meet him for the higher order, came in, saw him kind of stuck in his own way of how could this man be a saintly person? All he's interested in is money. He's creating his own wealth. That's all he's interested in. And so he then decided to leave the room. And Baba Namdev, the gentleman who was actually spinning the yarn, turned around and looked at him and said, what are you here for? And he said, it's okay, I came here for a higher learning, but I've just found I don't think I'm going to seek it here. And he said, what seems to be the problem? And he said, I've walked in over here and you're sitting here spinning yarns and thinking about money and you're making a material which I'm sure you're going to be selling. And I'm here for a higher learning. So how does that work? So Baba Namdev just very humbly put his hands together and said, Hastya, Kadendya, Milendya, Usnam, Vichhoy Mukt. My apologies for slight interpretation errors. What that means is basically laughing, joking, working. You should be at all times using your hands, using your feet, being very functional within work, within business. But your heart, or should I say your mind, should be connected to him upstairs. Mm-hmm. So whether that's the universe, or whether that's deemed as God, or whether that's the mid-static rift, or whatever we think in quantum physics-wise, the reality is that we should be connected to our maker or our observation of some kind, our accountability, our architect, the universe, to tap into that spiritual energy as well at the same time. So use your hands, use your feet, be functional, but at all times be connected. So the point of that story was that you said, how does one stay heartfelt within work? Well, you should always be connected to your heart all the time, whether there's figures in front of you, or whether you're just listening to a challenge that somebody's having, or alternatively, listening for detail within a sales or a negotiation of some kind. Mm-hmm. I hope that helps explain.
Do you actually go into the prayer or declaration or calling for this life force, or is there at some point when you need to take decisions or you feel challenged, do you have conversations?
Always, 100%. An integral part of myself and being and our nurtured family. I'm the youngest of 8 children. My parents have brought us up very closely to our faith of integration with society. And the one thing that the Sikhs are brought up with as a race, as a religion, is that we do not require anybody to connect to our maker. We do not need another channel, we do not need another third person. So, kind of with respect, we don't need a priest, we have ourselves. So, within ourselves, we connect spiritually, which connects to our maker. So whatever your belief systems are around that, names are not relevant. The energy is what I'm talking about. So I myself can tap into that energy. That's my perception and genuinely my belief. So when in any kind of doubt of situation or a big decision needs to be made, or alternatively, in the morning before you set your day up, during the day, and at the evening when you close your day off, when you're about to, in my case, when I see a client, when I see a mentee, before I go into the room, as I've completed the session with the client, I release with a prayer. So yes, for me, it's very, very stable. It's a stabilizing sort of agent, I suppose you could say that. I hope that's answered the question.
Yeah. And were you brought as you are also that? You are also this God. We are living gods also on the planet, or do you feel this is an entity of its own? Or
another lovely question. For myself, if I can just share on a personal journey, and I do not mean to be abrasive to anybody else's thought processes at all, but this is just a personal thought process, and for me it works. I believe, and I have been brought up to believe, that the divine is an energy. Whether we call him God, again, my Sikh faith teaches us around the very first thing within the Guru Granth Sahib Ji, which is our holy living Guru, is Ek Onkar. Ek Onkar means one, Onkar means make a God. So there is only one God. But then it goes on to explain that there's Ek hai, Anek hai, phir ek hai. What this means basically, Ek meaning one, hai meaning there is. There is one. Anek means countless. There are countless names, interpretations, channels of getting to this energy. But at the end of the day, there is only one. So I'm a very humble believer of integration. I do not have an agitated view towards anybody else's religions or belief systems. I can accept everybody, including an atheist who says there isn't a God. Absolutely fine by me, because it's a personal order. We've been brought up that we can choose to believe or not to believe. That's our choice, not anybody else's. So for me, God is a divine entity which can be harnessed through ourselves. I was actually listening to a prayer on the way, which I believe, whilst I was driving down from Peterborough. to Windsor today, and it's I am thine, and thine is I. So the logic is very, very simply where, yes, I am a part of God because I'm a part of His light, but He is also part of me. So we're one and the same. But that does not make me a God on earth. It allows me to connect into His energy or her energy, whichever you perceive.
And quantum physics and all this, do you study it? Have you been interested by it? You mentioned it earlier.
Massively, because I sincerely believe that science and religious beliefs, I would suggest spirituality, religious beliefs, I believe the bonding agent between them has become kind of quantum physics, where it shows that things that were unbelievable, a bit like the world being flat a few hundred years ago. People were born in that era believing the world was flat, and that if you rode out or were a part of a ship, and you'd fall off the earth. Now, people were born in that time frame, believing it, and God bless them, they were also demised in that same time frame, knowing that that's the only way that there is. The world is flat. You're going to fall off the edge.
Not so long ago.
Not so long ago is what I'm trying to say. Yes, absolutely. So, the belief system, in my humble belief, is quantum physics is the new gel that's allowing us to understand in things that we do not believe, what we did not believe through scientific belief systems were possible. But actually, quantum being a science of itself, with the atom around the vibrative force, around our focus and flow. To be honest, I think it's a genuine gel. It answers a lot of things that mythology, religious scriptures and of all faiths have written. Flying carpets, etc., could be absolutely possible, but we just do not understand how to agitate that photonic particle, because everything on this planet is a form of energy and a carbonate anyway. There's no such thing as matter. So does that make sense? So we just haven't learned some of these things.
Yeah. So keeping an open mind, I guess, is really very much part of when you have a mentee. You really you have this conversation with them, or not, or you assume that they will have it, or they have this open mind already. Do you make suggestions?
Lovely. As a mentee and as a mentor myself, with God's grace, I have to say it is our prerogative to actually learn and understand the individual's meta-programs, their own personal ways of working within their psychological self. How that person actually adjusts and understands things around them. So if I was to be a genuine, respectful, but most importantly an honourable mentor, I can't see any other way of being an honourable mentor but to understand the person I'm speaking to in a very profound way. So for me, it's very important to ensure that we actually synchronize. So irrelevant of what their belief systems is for me to adjust myself, bless you, is for me to adjust myself to meet their needs, to ensure that they are going to get the answers they require to move on in their life. It isn't a session for me to prove my worth to them. It isn't a session about me at all. One of my prayers, which I was mentioning earlier, was to become selfless before I come into the room. So yes, it's very important to connect with those people on their terms, not mine. So yes, I use quantum physics, science, references, spiritual as well as religious, if it's relevant. And I think it's paramount.
Thank you so much for this beautiful conversation. I really enjoyed it. It went to some places I wasn't expecting. I love how when we're simply at service and selfless, it really takes over and it goes in magnificent places. So I very much enjoyed this. Thank you so much for being available. And I wish you a wonderful conference today here in Windsor. And I'm excited to share this video online with people around the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lilou, and thank you all for for taking the little time that we've spent together. An amazing, in-depth conversation. And my apologies if there's anything out of order in said, but this is just a personal journey. And every single day I live, I learn, I expand. And what I believed was fact yesterday is changing on a daily basis, possibly. Yeah. So I'm open to learning again every single day. So on a humble basis, thank you very much for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Much love, my delicious co-creators. Many blessings to you. Bye-bye.